Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins. I am your host. And today I have the great pleasure of hosting Dr. Jacob Lieberman for his third interview. I haven't talked to him for, oh my goodness, it's almost 6 years. So I am pretty excited to have him here. Welcome to a few of you that are showing up in the chat here. Eliza, JJ Hempcrete, welcome. And Jackie's here on time, early bird. So great. And so you might be familiar with Jacob because he has certainly made the rounds in our community, if you want to call it that. And I couldn't resist after seeing him on Alpha Vedic the last time, just how deeply inspiring and grounding and beautiful that was. I couldn't resist having him on for another one. If you're not familiar with him, his discoveries in the field of light, vision, and consciousness have been enthusiastically endorsed by luminaries in the field of health, science, and spirituality, from Deepak Chopra and Bruce Lipton to Eckhart Tolle. His newest book, Luminous Life, which I highly recommend, by the way, I had that on repeat in my Audible. How the science of light unlocks the art of living, reveals how light guides our every step so we may fulfill our reason for being. Today, we're going to talk specifically about the vision behind the vision, because visioning is a very big subject for me right now. And I know that Jacob is going to be amazing at shedding more light on it for us. So without further ado, I'm bringing him on. Hello and welcome. Do you mind if I call you Jacob or do you prefer Dr. Lieberman?
I prefer Jacob.
Okay, very good. Okay, I knew that about you. I don't know if you remember this because you've done so many interviews. So have I. But I do remember, I think it was the first time I brought you on. And I was very nervous and I felt like I was sitting with someone much higher than me. And you right away put an end to it. You said, stop it. Don't, elevate me or put me on a pedestal. I'm just like you, or something to that effect. And that immediately put me at ease.
In your introduction, you mentioned something about the vision behind the vision.
That's it.
So many years ago, my daughter came over to my home one day and said she wanted to speak to me. Something had come up and she didn't know if she had made the right decision. And so we were sitting on the front lanai of my home at the time in Maui. And she was sharing, and all of a sudden something caught my eye. And my head reflexively turned to the right, and there was a big tree moving back and forth. And I said to my daughter, Gina, do you see that? I said, what do you mean, Dad? The tree? I said, yeah. I said, what do you notice about it? He said, I don't know. It's just moving. I said, well, if you didn't know that wind existed, obviously because you can't see the wind, you would be pretty sure that the tree was animating itself. She said, yeah, that's right. But since you know that wind exists, you know that the wind is actually moving the tree. She said, yeah. I said, what do you think is moving the wind? And she looked at me puzzled, and I said, obviously something that's even more invisible. So now we go back to our first interview, and you felt a little nervous, like all of us feel when we're doing something like that, whether it's speaking with another person or speaking in front of an audience. Most people feel that trepidation or the butterflies. And the fear and I've never actually considered this until you mentioned this experience. The trepidation is because we're sure that we're doing it. You're the interviewer, and I'm the interviewee. And of course, we all want to do it correctly because our whole life is built on this idea of correct or incorrect
Hmm.
duality. And so, gosh, I hope I don't forget what university he went to, even though no one really cares about any of that, because the moment something comes from us, people immediately know whether there's resonance there. And so, what am I getting to? It isn't us that's asking the questions or delivering the response. The same animating force that is moving the wind is moving everything within us. And I'm not talking spiritual talk right now. I'm talking hard science as well. Everyone believes that we're thinking about things and deciding what to do all the time. But when you start looking at the neuroscience of a lot of these things, we find out that over 95% of what comes out of our mouth, we are totally unaware of before it comes out. It just comes from some place that we're unaware of. And so I guess what I'm sharing is the sweetest part of this moment for me is that I have no idea what will come from you, and I have no idea what will come from me. But over many years, I've learned that whatever is speaking us is also breathing us, pumping our hearts, regulating our blood glucose, our blood pressure, everything. And it's been doing that from the moment we emerged out of our mother's womb, and it will continue until the final breath. And so maybe this is a good moment to just say, ah, thank God I'm home.
How beautiful. That just brought us all home
Yeah, thank
right,
you.
right at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's not put off the important parts. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really beautiful. I recall you saying pretty much every time I've seen you interviewed, sorry for the sirens, they're going to be sound effects in the background, that you tend not to script yourself or prepare for what you're going to say, but that you show up alive in that moment. And I also, I mean, I started out doing that almost exclusively. And then I trained myself a little bit like a warrior to do more preparation and make a list of questions and everything. And then I was thinking about my questions. I do have a few written down, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna be the same way that you are in that conversation and just allow it to flow, which is inevitably how all of these interviews go. And that's the beauty of it for me, that there are such levels of spontaneous creation happening. So I appreciate that.
This is the highlight of my life.
Hmm.
Someone said to me recently, do you have an office? I said, well, one in my home. Well, do you see people? Well, usually online. So where do you do your work? I said, I do my best work out on the streets. What do you mean? Every day I go out maybe to a coffee shop once a day, or I take a walk, and something catches my eye, and literally moves me toward someone or something, and often begins to speak me. There's no doing on my part. It does itself. And what's fascinating about it is that it's miraculous, because all of a sudden I find myself with someone I've never seen, will probably never see again, know absolutely nothing about. And all of a sudden we realize that there's something about life that is a major overlap for both of us, and something magnificent occurs. And I notice it happens for me each time I see a young person at the coffee shop or at a restaurant just doing something impeccably. And something in me must share with them not only that I see them, but I am so deeply touched by the beauty in the way that they are showing up, and perhaps that their mom and dad have done a great job. And it's quite profound. Uh, these little things that I experience every day, sometimes with adults, sometimes with young kids. It's just magnificent. So I not only, I don't tend to, I never prepare anything. That doesn't mean that preparing is a problem. No, no, no. Each of us must honor what is natural for us at that moment. But for me, it hasn't, it's almost like I have a bit of an allergic reaction when I notice the mind wanting to make sure you get it perfectly or whatever. And I realize that people feel so much more at home with imperfection than perfection.
Nice.
Perfection creates a distance between the two. Imperfection is a beautiful part of naturalness, and it's what allows each of us to be the same height. And that is where relationship thrives.
That's my claim to fame right there, Jacob. It's interesting because I help people to deprogram. And one of the really big programs, there's not very many, but one of them says that when it's running, it says, if you don't get it just right or get it perfect, that something bad is going to happen. And it's almost always a death threat from the unconscious. And then it's so different, because sometimes people can say, well, that means that, well, I shouldn't work on it, or I shouldn't improve, or I shouldn't go for excellence. But what I notice is that it's beautiful to do things impeccably. That is a beautiful thing. The lovers in my world, me included, really appreciate that. But it's the motive, right? So that if you allow the fear of the program to drive you to excellence, then it's empty, and it's like exactly what you said. It creates distance from you and other people. They think you're high somewhere and they're not there. And when you just let that program go, and you allow, it's what you're saying, like you allow the life force to just come through you and express, and how it does, then that makes you more approachable, right? So I think that's why people have sometimes been able to enter into my world more easily, because I'm not getting it perfect over here.
You know, um, you had mentioned my last book, Luminous Life,
Mhm.
which came out, I think, 2018. And I did a book tour within the US and also one in Europe.
Amazing.
And when I was in Europe, I was invited to speak at the University of Economy in Prague. And when I'm asked to speak in public, I usually ask for a comfortable chair and I sit down just as the audience is seated. And I like to be as close as possible to the audience. So I move the chair closer, and I like, if possible, to be on the same height as them as well. And I was sitting there and I realized that this is an audience, many of whom do not speak English.
That's tricky.
And I have a translator. And I'm sitting there and I share with the audience, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And they look at me and I said, I mean, this is the University of Economy. And, economy has to do with money and investments and these things. I said, that's not my area that I really delve in each day. And so I'm just going to sit for a moment just to see what it is that wants to be shared. And I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden, what comes out of my mouth is, I got it. And they look at me, and I said, we think economy has to do with money. I said, but economy is another word for efficiency. And I said, and what defines economy is life.
Mm.
The workings of the universe define economy at its optimal level. Nothing is actually doing anything, and everything is being done. I said the planets, there isn't some technology or some strong person moving the planets in their orbit. They all move and spin at their own rate, all at the same time. It doesn't appear like anything is being done, any effort is being made for that to occur. And whatever is animating the movement of the universe is animating every movement within us. And so it's really important to look at that, because our whole life has been, people at the beginning of our life, what are you going to be when you grow up? Well, a kid doesn't know that they're just going to be a bigger version of who they are, a larger version, a taller version. Oh, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be the president, or whatever it is. And our natures are different because our reason for being is different. Anyone could practice playing the piano and their fingers would become more efficient. But pianists at very high levels, that's in their blood. It's in their spirit. It's in their they're made for it. I frequently meet someone And sometimes what catches my eye are their hands. And I notice that pianists and artists, they have different hands than people that are, maybe athletes and doing something else. And we're all just different kinds of trees. And when you go out in the forest, sometimes you see trees that are very tall and thin, and others that are much shorter and much broader. Some of them, like palm trees, they sway in the wind, no problem. Others are stiffer, and when a wind comes, they can crack. Some create shade, which is a source of protection. Some create fruit, nourishment. Some create the essence because of flowers. Some have thorns and you can't get too close to them. And if you begin to look at the plant kingdom or even the animal kingdom, you'll see that every variety is similar to a lot of what we experience in our own life. We're not all designed to be identical, or to, not everybody is going to be whatever they want. Um, so I think common sense is such an important part of life.
Indeed, indeed. And then, so how are you able to relate the economy and the efficiency back to? I'm guessing where you were headed is around. In India when I studied, they would talk about doership. So you always feel like, oh, I just helped that person, I did it, or oh, I just got into trouble, I did it, and so then it creates this sort of an interloper in what otherwise what you're saying just comes straight from its source with no effort of any kind.
Right. Um, a lot has to do with one's awareness of their essence. You see, when we emerged out of our mothers, we had no awareness of sexuality. We had no awareness of gender identity. We had no awareness of skin coloration, religiosity. We had no preferences that we were aware of. We were not aware of us. And this is why an infant has no awareness that its mother or father is something external to themselves. They're born in oceanic bliss and in a state of oneness. It's undifferentiated. It's not this or that. It just isness. And the response that comes forth, it is always appropriate. If the infant is hungry, a sound lets you know that, or a tear, or a something. If an infant is frightened, a different kind of sound lets you know that. Mothers at night often wake up just exactly when their infants need them. And So the doership, my senses has to do with the illusion that is created by the persona that is conditioned. And so here we come in. Obviously, we have a nature. There's certain aspects in there that will evolve. But, it isn't until the doctor or nurse or midwife, the first thing they do is they notice whether the infant's body is expanding and contracting, which we call breathing. Keep in mind, this infant a few moments before was in a pool of liquid. And all of a sudden, it's gone from a warm, dark, liquid environment into a cold, brightly lit, totally different environment. And something begins breathing it seamlessly. And once they see that that's happening, the eyes immediately go down to the genital area, and then they pronounce, "It's a girl." Now, in today's world, people want to know what the sex of the baby is before they arrive. Why? Oh, we want to make sure that we paint the room yellow instead of lavender. We want to know, what the drapes are going to be like, if it's a boy versus a girl, or what kind of clothing we're going to give them, or what name we're going to name them. And so the preparation is based on the idea that we're going to know exactly what they need because some test says, oh, they have this type of genital or this type. And so the conditioning begins even before you arrive. And, if you're called a boy versus a girl, your whole life is already set up in relation to that, even if you don't fit that. We say, oh, life is not black and white. It's just a bunch of shades of gray. But everything is handled as if it's black and white on some level. And then we toilet train kids. Now, most people don't realize this, but if you never toilet trained a child, the child will model what its parents are doing and will toilet train itself. But we feel by a certain time we have to do that. And so when we hear certain noises and we sense something is going on digestively, we might pick up the child and run toward the bathroom. Now, hold on just a second, hold on, which is conditioning the child to hold something that's actually ready to be released. Or as the child gets older, mom or dad says, now go to the bathroom because we're not going to be able to stop once your dad starts driving. So now you have to make something happen that isn't ready to happen. And if you look at our life, so much of it is either trying to make something happen that isn't quite ready or trying to stop something from happening that is ready. And so we live in a mind field. And what got us into this discussion is about economy and so on. And I shared with you how I do my best work in the streets in not knowing. And the only thing that's different is that I am aware that there's something, I don't know where it resides, but there is something that is aware of everything that's happening inside of me. You know, there's something that I'm aware of the chair, the sensations under my thighs and on my back. I'm aware of all of that. I'm aware of you. You're aware of me. I'm aware of this giant 4 by 8 foot window behind my monitor. There's all kinds of sensations going on. I'm aware words are coming out of my mouth, although I have no awareness where they're coming from or why. Every so often, I sense the mind saying something. Something is aware of that. What's profound about that is we've been led to believe that we are the mind. Oh, it's my mind. I don't mind it. I can change my mind. But in actuality, the reason we are aware of this function called mind, which is really a translation unit, is because something is always observing it, witnessing it, aware of it. And it's in order to survive, an organism must be able to know what is occurring or what will occur before it actually occurs. So when we get a flash about something, we say, oh, I just got this intuitive hit, which we later say, look what I thought of. When someone says, well, what is that intuitive? Well, it's a feeling. I just sensed it. Now, when I went to school, in elementary school, my teachers would often say, your first feeling is always correct. Not 95% correct, is always correct. And if they noticed that someone seemed to naturally be living from that space, they would say, Jackie knows it by heart. Now, as a kid, I thought, oh, they memorized it. No, no, no. Knowing by heart is knowing at a totally, totally different level. So let's talk about this intuition just a second, because you talked about the vision behind the vision. Most eye doctors, if you speak with them and you said, tell me a little bit about the retina of the eye, which is the photosensitive layer in the back. And they'll say, well, it's primarily made up of two types of cells, one that sees better at night, one that sees better during the day, and one that sees colors and one that doesn't, and so on. What they're unaware of, and so will never share with you, is that 95% of the photosensitive cells on the retina are called rods. And rods are very active at night in low light levels. Why? Because they are incredibly sensitive. They pick up stuff before you see it, before on some level you even imagine that it's there. Now, let me tell you how sensitive they are. When we speak about light and a physicist, and you say, well, what is light made of? Light is just energy. They say, well, it's made up of packets of energy called photons. Now, photons are not material. Photons are formless. It's just energy. The rods of the eyes are so sensitive that they can detect and respond to a single photon. Now, there isn't any other kind of cell in the body, and there is no technology developed in the world that can detect a single photon. We have that. What does that mean? It means that by design, most of our vision has the ability to detect and respond to the invisible. Now, and then you say, well, where does choice take place? The system is choiceless. It detects at a level that is so subtle that it's making sure that we survive. And that's called intuition, something that most of us think is just some sort of philosophical something. It isn't. Our bodies are continually adjusting themselves very gradually to what is coming so that in each moment we are totally there. Now, we call that presence. And again, we think, oh, you need to be more, you need to do this to be more. And what I'm sharing is our natural makeup is continually bringing us into a state of oneness with the cosmos. Why? So that life can move us in the miraculous way that it moves everything else that we think we can explain, but we keep learning each year that our explanation wasn't quite right.
That's the beauty of living over time, is that all of those, answers, I'll say in quotations for anyone just listening, they're they're not answers at all. They're sand that flows right through the hands. There's literally nothing
Right.
there.
Even science, and science is a beautiful gift, but science isn't made up of facts, even though most people think it is. It's made up of theories. Theories and science make sure that they're um, as accurate as we can get in the moment, but it's a theory. Another word for theory is hypothesis, concept, idea, belief. All those words mean something similar. You know what word is means the opposite of theory or belief? Truth. So we talk about beliefs and changing beliefs and all that. Beliefs are transitory undulations of life. They're not truths. Truths, they're always there. And for me, I love not knowing. Um, it's sort of like if there's just a lot of space when the space isn't filled. And people have no idea often what it is I'm referring to, because I've spoken in public a lot. And sometimes the person that's going to interview me starts talking to me before and says, "What are you going to talk about tonight?" I said, "I don't have the slightest idea." He said, "What do you mean? This is your title. What are you going to talk about?" I said, "What do you talk about before you meet someone?" "Well, until I meet them, I don't know what we're going to talk about exactly." I said, "Well, how would I know until I meet the people coming this evening?" So I frequently stand at the entrance to the building and notice that I say hello and connect with people as they come in. They have no idea who I am. I have no idea who they are, but something happens as they're coming in, and I feel myself gently being moved in exactly the direction I need to go. And then it drives by itself. It's a self-driving vehicle, and it's only when it's driving by itself that you have the opportunity to experience the miraculousness of how we are designed and how different it is from most everything we've ever been taught or learned.
Exactly. So that's such a good quote there. I love not knowing, said no one except Jacob Lieberman, because it's the most terrifying thing ever. That, like you said, if we've got our survival programming all active all the time, which is most of the people, and that's not a criticism or a takedown of any kind, then you're always trying to anticipate so that you could know, so that you could be safe and survive. And that all happens unconsciously. So most people's terror is not knowing. Could I share a short story with you on this exact
I'd
subject?
love it.
As how we
Sure.
came here. So this summer I had a series of accidents, and it was one after the other, I think 5 in total, and they left me handicapped for a time. Literally lost use of my hands, even threw my back out. My body was just like, it was kind of over. And I did a lot of work and I healed from that and I came a long way. And then I was left with this blank slate. And I had no idea how I was going to come back into my world again. And this is not a new experience. I have had this experience periodically throughout my life, some bigger than others. And and I knew for a fact that if I got into doership and started like whipping up some, oh, I could do, because I have no shortage of ideas. Those are like backlogged for a lot of lifetimes already. I could just have pulled something out, thrown the spaghetti at the wall, see how it goes, just, keep going. But I knew by now that I need that to come from an authentic place, not just this drive. Okay, I have to go be somebody again and do something and earn a living and all of this kind of stuff. So instead of doing that, I went inside And I did the inner work. I released my fear of not knowing. I allowed my whole world to dissolve. If that was, if it was the end of my body, of my work, of everything, I let myself completely die to all of that. And what's on the other side of it was enormous fire of inspiration and the desire, actually, to, and this goes along with what you're saying, the desire to speak to the people in my community. So I started reaching out and I started having unscripted conversations and discovering where they were at. And because without that feedback, I couldn't read the field. Like the field is one, but all I knew was nothing at that point.
Right.
And so out of those organic conversations, all of this creative energy started flowing through me. And it's exactly like you say, I can't sit back and say I did that. It's just literally pouring out of me and taking
Yeah.
form and shape. So
And you're much younger now.
right. Thank you. I feel that actually. I do feel.
It's more than a feeling. It's so obvious. Um, Literally, our biological age or the process of aging is now replaced by saging, and there's a very different impact. It's not one of deterioration, it's one of enlightenment and enlivenment. It's just moving us in ways that are, it's so difficult to speak about this, Beth. We were trained to read and when I was a kid, because you had to read to learn. Now, reading only confirms what you already know. If you don't know it already, you won't see it on the page.
Right.
Reading is not the way one learns. One learns through movement.
Nice.
So if an infant, the reason creeping and crawling and all these things are so important to the development of a child is that all of the connections in their body with movement is what provides our sense of knowing. And it's a knowing by heart. So we've been trained that you've got to read and that the real facts of life are done by scientific studies and gold standard studies that are peer reviewed, evidence based, all this terminology. That's one way in which one searches for truth. There's another way that precedes it, is fully natural, and actually what always tells the scientists where to look next. And that is direct experience. The mystic doesn't know because he read a book or he did a study. The knowing, which is not personal, comes from all of a sudden finding yourself there.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating for me, as someone who has had the pleasure of speaking in front of a couple thousand audiences without preparation, is that What's so exciting about that is you get an opportunity to have a direct experience of something we call genius, which we think, oh, that's Einstein, or that's somebody with a lot of degrees. Oh, they're a genius. But the word genius, the original meaning is guiding spirit.
Mm. Write that down.
It is what comes through when the mind is empty. So, not knowing is the opportunity to discover directly that something is moving us, something is speaking us, something all of a sudden comes to us while we're having dinner in a restaurant and we're scratching notes on a napkin because it's like, oh my God, where did this come from? And then, of course, the next day we say, well, let me tell you what I thought up. No, we didn't think it up. Inspiration comes to us.
Amen.
It is from that guiding spirit, and that is what directs us in one direction or another, and then starts moving. And that's part of our reason for being, part of what we are here to share. And I like experimenting. What does that mean? It's there's an inquisitiveness without any sense of where it's going or what's going to come from it. It's just an inquisitiveness, something natural. And as you can see, we could talk about these things forever and ever and ever.
Isn't it fascinating how um, it really is beyond words? It's
Oh,
difficult,
yeah.
but because of our one field and our shared experience, which is not quite the right word either, then we could talk about this all day and every day and never get tired of it.
And we'd actually never get to it either.
Yeah.
Give you an example. You go to an Italian restaurant and you're looking at the menu and you see pizza. And you think that that pizza is a pizza. But it doesn't have a damn thing to do with that 12-inch, crispy, incredibly smelling something they bring to the table. And then when you bite into it, you realize that there's no word in the world that can describe what you just had. Or you connect with someone, all of a sudden, each of you disappear, and all there is one something. And we call it falling in love, or words can in no way capture what's essential. And we use words, we came up with them because the language center of the brain, it's called Broca's region or Broca's area of the left hemisphere. That's that voice we hear inside all the time. And it's attempting to describe something it's never actually experienced. The direct experience is profound. And I remember I was giving a talk somewhere once, and I shared something about a experience I had in the 70s where my vision opened up. And they said, "Oh, you had an out of body experience." I know what that is. And it was sort of shocking to me that they put a name on it and they know what that is. Whatever they know might be very significant for them, but has absolutely nothing to do with whatever I experienced. And I guess the essence of what I'm attempting to share is we spend a lot of time talking about these things, reading about these things, and we think it's the same thing as the direct experience. And I find that there's almost nothing in common. There's something about coming from that place inside that occurs effortlessly. And I can imagine we could write books upon it, but never actually touch it because I don't know how to speak about it. I hope people can hear what I can't say because you hope that something is being shared, and I think what's being shared is our vulnerability, our sweetness, uh, our authentic nature.
That's so beautiful. Another great quote. I hope people can hear what I can't say. And I was noticing as you're talking how it's true. Words have literally nothing in common with what they are referring to. And the more you know that, the more freely the words come. I notice.
Right.
More
And then they have medicinal value.
Mm.
When the words come by themselves, they carry something that has medicinal value. It can touch the cells in our being and transform something. Um, and Yeah, boy, even though words can't do it, I'm loving this conversation we're having.
Me too. So much. Yeah, I knew it was
Yeah.
going to be a real treat. Um, yeah, the vulnerability, the sweetness, that really is the authentic nature. Like you said earlier, how we adopted personas, versions of ourselves that maybe we thought were necessary or asked of us, or we, decided, oh, I'll get more love if I'm like this, or I'll be safer if I get that, or if I'm like that. And that's the jail. When we
Oh,
Mhm.
we're a bundle of conditioned reflexes that are reflexively responding in a way that we hope will be appreciated, accepted, liked, come up with the right answer. There's so many places where this shows up. And, authenticity is what is captured in the original work of an artist. Now, most of our world is not made up of original work. Most of it is, oh, I'd like a signed lithograph. I'd like a giclée. Can I get a CD? Those reproductions, even though they sound and look just like the original, um, one is a robot and the other is something delicious that you like to hug.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty different.
Yeah, it's really, and so authenticity is a miraculous moment where creation comes through in its first manifestation, if you want to call it. It comes literally from nothingness. Something erupts, and you say, "Oh my God!" and we cannot make it that way. It must occur by itself.
Exactly. Because the more you try to make it, the more layers you're putting in
Right.
between you and that birthing
Yeah,
from
yeah,
nothing.
yeah. And it's and I would share with our listeners, please don't believe a word I'm saying. But if something inside of you seems to feel a little excited, do an experiment and see what occurs. Next time what you call a thought comes up and you're aware of it, close your eyes for a second and just allow that in. My whole life, I thought I was the thoughts that I called mine because it's my mind. Well, what if it's not my mind? What if it's the mind that is the archives of everything that has preceded us? What if that mind, that there's something within us that is aware of it? That's why we are aware when the chatter is happening. We're not the chatter that we're aware of any more than we are the television program that we are watching from the couch. Those moments are really profound. If we just know them, when we notice them, allow ourselves to be impacted by, oh my God, because that experience dissolves an idea that has no basis in fact. And it's so important to begin to notice because awareness is curative. And that is where the brain is continually rewiring itself. The neuroplastic changes in the brain we think are related to playing the piano 20 minutes every day. Yes, you can get brain changes from repetition, but the moment you stop the repetition, they start going the other way. So if you don't go to the gym anymore, your biceps will get smaller. That isn't real neuroplasticity to me. I like change that happens without doing and remains and continually grows without doing. And that is what occurs with awareness. The seeing mechanism, which is way beyond the eyes, has an awareness of something. And when that awareness occurs, it can change everything. It's incredibly profound. And you know, um, being a survivor, you know that you had many awarenesses that people try to get by going to a workshop. Not that there's anything wrong with a workshop, but as the expression goes, there's nothing like the real thing, baby. And so it's only when you're in it that these awarenesses come that are revelations. And with that, the body can sometimes transform something in ways we can't even begin to imagine. And, we call them spontaneous remissions. But my sense is that these spontaneous remissions, which are a new level of creation, occur not when the mind is in first gear or second gear or third gear or fourth gear, but is in that space in between the gears. It's in that other level of awareness of that which is noticing mind. Profound things can happen then.
That's beautiful. One of the most important things that I picked up from you early on was it's in your book, Luminous Life, and I think you said it as well, and you've been pointing towards it the whole time, is that there are things in your life on a regular, ongoing basis that are trying to capture your attention. Whether that's a young child who needs breakfast or somebody you're working for, your own stomach, or, some interruption or bad news or something like that. And
Being
so,
guided all the time.
right, exactly. And the tendency is that we block that that need to capture, and we like, oh, not, no, not now. Oh, not now. I need to focus. Get
Right.
away from me. Resistance. Oh, don't feel that, or I can put that off. And your method is like really reversing the flow, which is exactly what I found to work in the real world, because the idea is not the thing like we're talking about. And so I've spent a lot more time allowing things to fully capture my attention since I've met you, and always to the most beautiful end. I never regret, oh, why did I give that extra attention to somebody who needed my help, or whatever it was. It's always so beautiful, and speak about how it guides you, if that's what you were going to do.
It was something that was brewing, and then something just became empty.
That's okay. I blew your mind.
Of course you did. There's no question about that. And you keep doing that. Shame on you. So when you began speaking about this last piece, do that beginning again.
Right. That principle of how when things are trying to capture your attention.
Ah, got it. Thank you. So, we have these expressions that we hear and we think, oh, that's somebody really came up with an interesting expression, but it's just an expression. Like, it caught my eye. Now, most people think that the eyes are meant for looking. And so, um, people make assumptions that you're looking for something, but that isn't actually the way it works at all. The eyes are continually moving because things are continually grabbing them. they're not looking for something, they're seeing what is looking for them. And it's not my method. You said, oh, they're your method. What for me is impactful is when something occurs in my life and all of a sudden a revelation occurs. Oh my God, it caught my eye. And because the eyes, 95% of the retinal cells are designed to see the invisible, catching your eye doesn't mean your eyes have to be open, your physical eyes. Many years ago, I was doing an event in Arizona, and I noticed one of the participants walked in, and it was obvious that they had some sort of vision issue that was significant because they had one of those canes that usually indicate that there's some loss of vision. And I saw them, and I immediately got up and asked them if I could take them by the arm and bring them to a chair. And so I sat them right next to me. They didn't know who I was, and I had never met them before. And I was sharing about my work with light and color and so on. And this lady uh, would be considered legally blind, couldn't see, was walking with a cane and so on. And she shared that she had left school because of the disability, but then as an adult decided to go back and get her degree. So a few months after that event, I get a letter from this lady, and her name means angel. And she had been working with a color therapy device that I had developed, even though her eyes couldn't perceive color. And she said some profound things are happening. And she says, let me share. Every day I walk the same route to class, which I had to learn and then feel safe walking to get to class. And I have felt for a long time like I'm at a loss because I can't see what's going on. And the other morning, I was walking on the path to class, and all of a sudden, something stopped me in my tracks. And I just stayed there, and all of a sudden, I realized something I had never realized in my life. And she said, I noticed that all the trees and all the plants were looking at me. And it wasn't my imagination. They were totally aware of me. And all of a sudden, I realized I don't need to be the one always looking. Life is continually also looking for me. And she said that was life changing. So, um, this piece about what knocks on our doors looking for us. Um, Life will find us no matter where we are. And it is very profound because when something catches the eye, it reflexively, involuntarily moves the eyes toward it. And depending on where it is, it will then, without any effort, move the body so that the body is in alignment. And that connection, which you and I are experiencing at this moment, is called presence. And presence, as my old friend Ram Dass would say, is like baklava. It includes everything, he said, the phyllo dough, the honey, the nuts, and it even includes all those moments when you think you're not present. Presence is everything. So what's catching our eye is looking for us, guiding us on the next step of our journey. So uh, I see a dish in the sink. There's usually never a dish in the sink, but I'm just making this up. A dish is in the sink. I clean it. I rinse it. I either put it on the dish drain or I dry it and I put it back. A bill comes. I take care of it. Nothing keeps getting put off. I got out of bed, let the bed air out a little bit, and then you make the bed nicely. You respond to an email, or you put in there unsubscribe if it's stuff that you don't want to receive. And so something keeps grabbing our attention. Why? Why does it catch our eye in that moment? Oh, it's just a coincidence. No, 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 no coincidences. In biology and in life, timing is everything. Every movement of our physiology is at a precise timing. Not, we couldn't make it precise enough by doing it. It's already designed at a level way beyond anything we can imagine. Because everything depends on it, not only within the body, our biology, but the experience of life is the biology of the cosmos. And that biology is animated by the same timing. And so for me, this piece about what's catching my eye is looking for me and guiding me is sacred. It's not just some good idea. It's something that has stayed with me since I first had that awareness when my children were very young. And now they're very full grown adults. So it's been a very long time. I'm talking about 40 something years. And it's remained with me. And people say to me, well, do you meditate? And I said, no, but my life is my meditation. What do you mean? Well, the practice of meditation is a beautiful practice. That was part of my life at a certain point. And each person must see what it is that moves them. I said, right now, what I notice is that for me, what the practice of meditation allowed me to experience was that I was the observer, not the mind. I was that which was aware of all of this. And then what really inspired me was, how about the other 23 hours and 40 minutes? Because I noticed I couldn't seem to maintain my meditative state after the meditation. And so this what's catching your eyes looking for you is literally what's catching your eye is your mantra. And it's continually moving us, whatever it is, and I let it take me.
And that's so much more fun than chasing a state. Because to me,
Yeah,
that's what happens with meditation, is that you reach some experience of bliss or happiness or whatever you call it, and then you go, oh, there I am, that's what I want. And you spend the rest of your life trying to get that. And the more you chase it, the less you likely experience it. It's almost like it literally pushes that away. And what you're describing is more of generosity of spirit, is always the phrase that comes to mind. When you allow yourself to generously include things in your awareness rather than deny them, push them away, say actually get away, and you take it, it is literally guiding you. I In some ways I can't recommend my methods, I feel, because they're not methodical. I do rely on this, that the right thing comes to my attention at the right time, and the accuracy of that can be staggering, where it's just like one
it's
little
it,
ping.
it's unbelievable, and we can totally live without mind chatter.
That's what I hear.
Most of the time, well, let me say it differently. It is rare that I'm aware of any noise there. And that is our natural state. That isn't something I came up with or I did or there's a way. No, 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 no. It is our natural state. So you mentioned generosity. Generosity is one aspect of inclusivity. In a life that is inclusive, there needn't be any mind that is making a demarcation. This is okay, this isn't. There's something inside of us that does all of that at levels we can't even begin to imagine. It's absolutely profound. And it's taking care of itself all the time. And I recently did a couple of podcasts with people in the financial world. And I said, why the hell are they contacting me? I'm not a financial analyst and so on. And somewhere in the conversation, something about philanthropy came up. And I said, you see, when we think of philanthropy, we think of some person who has a lot of assets making a financial donation to someone in need or some organization that needs some support. And I said, that's one aspect of philanthropy. But if that's the definition, there's only a very small percentage of philanthropists. I said, I like being a philanthropist of love. That's open to everyone. Everyone. Their love is continually pouring out. And when we allow that to be as it is, it touches people in ways that money cannot. It is so profound, so very profound. Just seeing each other is miraculous. Not seeing each other as the other, but seeing each other as a mirror image reflection of ourselves.
Exactly.
And each of us have a different journey. I don't know why. There's so many these very quick expressions that we hear these days. And some part of me wants, when I hear them, to say, how do you know that? From where in your direct experience did that come? Because that's what I really want to know. What's the journey that took you there? It doesn't make any difference to me if this person said it or this person said it. Perhaps they shared it because that was their direct experience. But that doesn't necessarily become my direct experience unless it does in some way. And so, yeah, there's so much to this process of allowing that can truly awaken. And people say to me, well, what do you do these days? I said, well, other than interviews or talks, I mentor a small group of people. Well, what do you do? Well, it includes this, this, and this. Well, what do you actually do for them? Are you like a coach? I said, no. Are you a therapist? No, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a human being. And at times in our life, when we're in a place we've not been before and maybe feel a little jittery about that, it would be nice if we could hold our parents' hands or our close friends' hands or our partner's hands or our children's hands, if we could just hold a hand for a little while so we don't feel all alone in there. And I said, the people that reach out to me, it's just we found ourselves walking on the same path and enjoy the conversation. And I said, and I can't tell you exactly what happens, but just connecting at an authentic level. As I used to say when I used to train doctors, don't work with anyone you don't love.
Mhm.
When when I when someone wants to work with me, I also have to check in, am I the best person or at least a good person for them to work with? And I have to really look at that because, each year we went through school, we got different teachers. Each one specialized in whatever that was at that point in life. And so these are the things that are important to me. And because I find myself in my work really befriending this person. And um, and I receive so much from that relationship. One of my current clients is a 90-and-a-half-year-old, incredibly wise woman. And it's unbelievable the things she shares that really impact me. Because I've lost my parents and many of my closest friends. And it's so nice to have an elderly sage that has walked the walk and learned a lot. And I love to just be able to just be there with them, for them, and allow them to be there with me and for me.
That's beautiful. I love that. I have a similar
Yeah,
thing, and I teach this too when I train coaches and help people
yeah,
build services, that they actually have to love their people that they're working
yeah,
for, because otherwise it's not sustainable. It's not something that both people will be able to grow and feed on. It's not enough for me to just earn money and work with someone I don't have affection for. And like what you said very early on in the beginning, that awareness is curative, and then it's the awareness with love that cures. And I've got a whole language and lexicon about that, and I do teach in a lot of detail around how to deprogram. Is just my language for this process. But
okay,
at the very end, it's exactly the same. That if you can reverse, because otherwise we have a strong aversion to something, or we have a strong attachment. Both of those are not love, right? That they disregard love. It's trying to get the thing or put the thing away. And but when you come to just the pure awareness, from a loving place, then that really is the cure, and the
so
lasting. Mhm.
the pure awareness is naturally loving.
Right,
And
exactly.
I really appreciate you.
Likewise.
Yeah, um, what I am appreciating is the maturity that we are sharing with each other based on living life with all of its ups and downs, all of its great moments, all of its difficulties. And here we are. And it's nice for me to meet someone who is doing not only sharing your love and wisdom in the way that you do, but just having such a sense that there's a knowing that resides within you, um, and you're so inspired to share it because life wants you to share it. And I don't know exactly what I'm saying right now, but I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jacob. That means so much to me. That's beautiful.
Believe me, it means to me as well.
How amazing. Yeah, it's this is the life that y- when I talk to people, when I got out and heard from them,
Mhm.
they said to me that given what's going on in the world, what's happened to us, especially in the last 6 years, the increasing chaos, the increasing absurdity, the increasing encroachment on people's well-being, not just, this isn't light stuff that we're dealing with, that they've found it more and more difficult to actually vision and to answer. I always have this my golden question I didn't create, but came from one of my past teachers, just to finish the sentence, wouldn't it be nice if they couldn't do it because of the heaviness of what's going on?
There is so much divisiveness,
By design.
a lack of kindness, just simple kindness, and seeing meanness in a way that I've not seen it before. I'm working on a memoir.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I share an experience I had as a 7-year-old boy. I don't know if you know this, but I was born in Havana, Cuba.
Oh, no.
My parents escaped Eastern Europe in the 1920s. This is before Hitler, and ended up escaping as children, ending up in Cuba.
Wow.
And my sister and I were born in Cuba, and I came to the States when I was 7. And a couple of months after we were here, my father received some sort of a notification that we had to go to the American Embassy or something in downtown Miami. So we went. I was a 7-year-old kid. I was wearing shorts, a little shirt, and little high top leather shoes that were common at that time. And I understood some English. And I'm there, and this man comes out of the office, shakes my father's hands, and they start talking about something. Somewhere in the process, I just looked up, and the man looked down at the same moment. And he says, "Your name?" And I said, "Jacobo." Jacobo means Jacob in Spanish. But he maybe didn't know what the word was. So he said, "Boy or girl?" I said, "Boy." "How do you know?" I pulled down my shorts. The whole place starts laughing like hell. The man reaches his hand out to my father and says, "Welcome to America." Now, why do I share this story? Yes, it's cute, the innocence of a little boy. But the reason I shared it is that's the way I was welcomed into America. With laughter, love, welcome to America. And you were talking about what's happening in the world right now and the discomfort of things. And one of them is the way we treat others who we say are different. They're not different. We're all the same on some level. And so I shared that because, wow, how did we get here where rather than welcoming people, we're mean to them and we do things that are, I don't know, painful even to just mentally think of. So while this is going on, it allows us to see the importance of everything you and I have been sharing over the last hour and a half or so. on a Instagram post that I recorded with my son who's visiting. It was talk about it's no longer about you and me. Now it's about we.
Right. I saw that actually. Yeah.
Oh, and it's like so important that we see each other, and are not afraid to say, um, I love what you're doing, or it doesn't make any difference. We've been so corralled into, um, oh no, you can't say that, or you can't say, and it's like we must allow ourselves to be moved from that pure awareness, which is pure unconditional love. Why? Because that goodness is the most contagious thing in the world. And we really need to have it spread everywhere. And this is something we want to spread without any masks.
Indeed. Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's an art to appreciate. And the problem is that when you see somebody's beauty, somebody's greatness, somebody's something, that because of the persona that we've worn and we compare it against what we're seeing compared to who we think we are or feel we are, and then we don't match up, or we're less than, or it reminds us that there's work to do or something like that, then we don't see people at all. I watch this about myself, that when they say something about themselves, I'm always very ready to say something about myself. And I'm learning to just stop and like take it in more and not turn the attention back to me in the process, and just to expand. And it's a cliche, but there's always something to appreciate, and then there's always something to depreciate as well, that will result in division. Right now, division is like the currency of dysfunction, and if you want to call it evil in the world, they love that stuff. They love it when we're having our petty problems and you know getting into a snit and risking being ourselves, which is really the not love part.
You know, want to share with you a little bit, you could call a day in the life. This is something that occurred a couple weeks ago. Most of this year, I've been dealing with a pinched nerve in my neck
Oh, darn.
that that has caused the most excruciating pain you can imagine in my shoulder. And one evening after dinner, the pain started to come up. And all of a sudden, I had this feeling I wanted to take myself out for an ice cream cone. So I said to my wife, Deborah, I'm going to go into Paia, which is a little town 9 miles away that has a health food store and a little ice cream shop that has regular ice cream and also has non dairy ice cream, which was quite good. So I rode down there. I got an ice cream cone, and I'm sitting on a bench on the sidewalk just in front of the window of the shop. And I'm licking my ice cream cone, and all of a sudden, somebody walks by. I see feet, and then I see some little feet. And I look up, and it's a young woman, maybe she's 33, 34, carrying who I assumed was her daughter, who was maybe 4 years old, maybe 4.5. And out of my mouth comes, Hey. And she turns around and I said, would it be okay with you if I bought you and your daughter an ice cream cone? And she looks at me like I'm crazy. She says, excuse me. And they keep going across the street. And then a few minutes later, they come back and they sort of walk by. And I said, did you wonder why I wanted to buy you and your daughter an ice cream cone? She nods her head. I said, I'm going to tell you why. I said, you're a wonderful mother. She looks at me, almost to say, well, how would you know? And I said, and I know from great moms. I said, I had a great mom. And I said, I am a great mom. And it's the most difficult job in the world and also the most rewarding. And I felt like I got the Nobel Prize when my daughter, around the age of 4, would frequently call me mommy. And I felt like, oh my God, what's more important than being a wonderful mommy? She called me mommy. Oh my God. I thought I'd been blessed in every way. And I said, and when you walk by carrying your daughter, I knew you were a wonderful mom, and I wanted to thank you. She said, great, we'll take the ice cream. So I got them 2 cones of ice cream, and they walked on. And I sat, I finished my ice cream, and then I got up and I walked to the right about 20 feet. I was going to walk across the street to the health food store, and there was a couple looking at the menu in the window of a little restaurant. And I said, the food in there is quite good. I said, and when you finish, don't forget to go next door and get yourself an ice cream cone. And the guy turns around, he says, why? I said, I just have a strong feeling that you deserve it. And he smiled. And all of a sudden, a conversation ensues. And within a couple of seconds, after he's asked me, do I live there and so on, he asks a question that sounds like he wants to know what side of the political spectrum I lean toward. I heard his question and something responded, but it didn't respond on either side. It responded right down the middle. He had sort of a odd look on his face. And a few minutes later, another question comes, which was similar but different to the original question. But the response was also different, but also right down the middle. And he says to me, I don't think I've ever met anyone like you. I said, well, if you stick around Maui, you'll probably meet a lot of people like me. And then we start talking, and he says, where did you get that hat? And I was wearing a baseball cap that had the name Makawao, which is a little town very near my home. And it was a light blue color, similar to my eyes. And he says, I love Makawao. It's one of my favorite little areas of the island. And I love that blue color. I said, well, that's great because I'm going to tell you exactly where I got it. Just go up there in the morning because they're closed now and you'll be able to find one. They have a few more. He says, shucks. I said, what's the shucks about? He said, we're flying out early in the morning. I said, that's fantastic. And he said, what do you mean it's fantastic? I won't be able to buy the hat. I said, you're right. but it's going to allow me to have the pleasure of giving you mine.
I can see that one coming.
He said to me, well, I want to buy it from you. I said, I appreciate that, but my hat is not for sale. I want to give you something. I said, you already have. Let me give you $20. I said, thank you, but I don't need the $20. And I want to have the full pleasure of giving you my hat. So now that it's yours. And then he keeps insisting he wants to give me $20. And then he said, look, if you take this $20, then tomorrow you can gift someone else this $20 and help someone else out. I said, you make a very good point. However, if I don't take the $20, then tomorrow each of us will have our own $20 that we can give to help someone else. And we'll get double the impact. And he said, brother, I don't know who you are, but I love you. And he grabs me in his arms, he big tall guy, kisses me on top of the head.
Oh,
And then the next morning, I had the pleasure of buying myself another baseball cap at the same place and sharing with the owner how much happiness their hat brought. And it was very sweet. And all of a sudden, as I'm walking out with my new cap, a gentleman is staring there. And I'd never seen him before. And he had a cane. And he said, you're a very kind man. Now, it wasn't anything about me being a kind man. It was just like I felt like this was a series of dominoes that one had tipped and then was endlessly going with greater impact. And, we think we have to do all this big stuff to make an impact in the world. These little small things are life changing.
exactly. The whole life is made up of those incredibly magical moments that I'm really glad you're writing your memoir. That's going to be a beautiful thing to read. And they are important, those moments that are so easily passed because they don't leave you with a bad feeling that lingers and then you got to work through it. It's just, but I love also how you're saying it, one begets the next. And this state is the most authentic. It is the easiest way to be is just kind and
It's
loving.
natural. It's
Mhm.
natural. And you see, we've become so accustomed to normal that we don't realize that normal is often so unnatural.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, multiple layers of all kinds of things. I refer to them as machinations and loops and stations and everything that make it appear that part of us isn't there, but it never does actually go away, which is amazing news. And wow, this has been a beautiful conversation. We're starting to come to the end of it now. I do have some things that I'd like to share with people just because it's a special day for signing up for one of my courses that this is but I want to make sure, and if there's a message that you feel is busting out of you, not that you haven't given many really important ones, but if there's anything in addition that you'd like to share, or any news and how people can take you up on mentorship or anything.
People can find me at jacoblieberman.org, which is on the screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I would like is everyone to come a little closer to their monitor because I want to hug you all. Oh, yeah. I'm going to just hold you close to my heart
How sweet is that?
and feel you holding me and feel me holding you. And let's go out and keep holding each other. Yeah, God bless you all. Beth, thank you so much for inviting me. I feel like a little kid that's just had a lot of fun at the park and says, "Can we do this again?"
Yeah, we can. 100%.
So thank you for everything that you are and everything that you are gifting to the world. I am happy to spend this time together with you. And yeah, I just wish you the best 2026 you can imagine on every single level. And most of all, that you are inundated with love.
How beautiful is that? Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jacob. This has been absolutely just like the best.
Well, let's pass it on.
Pass it on. Exactly. Yeah.
Hugs and kisses to everyone. Yeah, just let's all go out and be just emissaries of something good, something sweet, something innocent. And, buy somebody a cup of coffee. Do we have one more moment?
We do. Yep. As many as you like.
So, this is a really cute little thing that happened to me. I was at this coffee shop I go to in the little town of Makawao, and I was standing at the counter about to put in my order, and something caught my attention. My head turned to the right, and there was an elderly lady with a gentleman who I assume was her husband standing there. The husband walked behind me, I imagine, to one of the tables, and the lady walked toward me and stood right in front of the little case that had all the pastries. She's looking, and I leaned down and I said, "Which one do you like?" She points to what looked like a coffee cake at the bottom. All of a sudden, the owner, Anthony, says, "Jacob, how you doing today?" I said, "Great, Anthony." He said, "You want your usual?" I said, "Yeah." He said, 12 or 16, 12 ounces fine with a little cinnamon. "Oh, Anthony, please, would you take and slice a generous piece of that coffee cake for this young lady?"
Hmm.
She says, "You can't do that." And I said, "You wouldn't take away my pleasure, would you?" And she said, "Well, I wouldn't want to do that." She says, "But I'm married." And I said, "I'm married too, but I don't think this is cheating."
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I experience happening every day. The story will never leave me. It's going to be in the memoir, along with many other things. But I'm sharing it with you because the most innocent moments can be the most profound.
Exactly.
And you don't have to be rich in order to share this level of philanthropy. Become a philanthropist of love, and we'll all be helping to heal everything that ails us.
That's
Have a
beautiful.
fabulous balance of your holiday and a wonderful New Year's.
Love and thank you, Jacob.
Thank you so much.
And pass that on to Deborah as well.
I will. I will.
Okay. Fantastic. Love you so much. I will definitely be in touch with you. I'd love to
Great.
send you a copy of my book as a gift, by the way, just for
I
my.
would love to have a copy of anything that you're doing.
Very good. All right. Well, I'll
All
definitely
right.
be in touch.
Heart to heart. You
Okay.
will.
Okay. Love
All
you
right.
so much.
Love you too.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Aw, that was nice. How beautiful. You guys, that was so sweet. Oh man. Deep breath. What a lovely injection into the space. I know there was someone who said, "Oh, they might have gone off and waited to listen at double time," but honestly, the space is as what's the word valuable as the words between the spaces, and that's why I knew that Jacob was going to be a wonderful guest today. And the whole time felt like a meditation. Thank you, Em. I'm getting it. I'm having a loss for words now, so you just filled in the blank there. And yes, you can buy if you're talking about my book from Europe, and Jacob Lieberman's books are all on Amazon, so you can find those from Europe as well. Absolutely. And so I don't forget, I wanted to let you guys know that my course called Creator Code, which is teaching people how to pick themselves up from a blank slate. And when Jacob was saying how he loves the unknown, what was his phrase? Something that most people just don't love, something to that effect. Anyway, I took a lot of notes here. And so this is a system that I've always used when I get into a place of things falling apart and dissolving. And like I said, I've been through that so many times in my life, sometimes bigger than others. And it is Jacob and I talked a little bit before the interview too, and he's very aware of that. Getting older, right? There's so many losses, like he said, important people to him, and the more you've lived, the more things you're going to go through, the more you're going to suffer, the more that toxicity is going to accumulate in one way or another. And so the ultimate way to use that and not just get bitter as you grow or grow older is to let it humble you and to let it take you into that place of the unknown, and to hold a high standard for how you're going to come back, because we always come back one way or another. Even if the body's gone, I do believe there is always an ongoing something. And so this course Creator Code was created expressly in that place, coming from the absolute unknown where I really didn't have a clue. And then something came from nothing, out of connection. Connection is a very big part of this course. I actually wrote a great email yesterday just describing all of the ways that the group work is very unique and organic, not because I instructed or engineered. I couldn't have ever engineered it. It happens organically because people are taking the risk to put themselves out there, to allow things to capture their attention that otherwise might be easy to distract away from, push away, think of it as an annoyance or an interruption. This is exactly reversing that direction, allowing everything inside and outside to capture your attention, to show you where you are losing energy, where there's interlopers in the form of programming, which are not creatures, by the way, that made it sound like that, but that there's unnecessary layers between you and that creative spirit that naturally wants to flow through. It just does. It's a force, and it's a beautiful thing. Extremely connective. Anyway, so today, thank you, Jackie. I always appreciate you saying that. And thank you, Kai Ramon 11, if I got your name right. And so today is the day that the early bird ends. Now, that's not the end because we don't start until January 14th, but the course is filling. In fact, today I had set the numbers a little bit lower than I anticipated. And so I have opened up a few more spots that are available. And today is the day when it's the best value, which I always want for people for some reason. Maybe the nurturer in me wants to make it the easiest possible to get through a door. And so this is a 12-week course where we are going on a journey of learning to create from a place of, rather than like Jacob was saying, the fear behind perfectionism, but to actually create something from freedom. And what the differences. He was trying to describe it. You can see it's kind of indescribable. Sometimes it's like almost looking backwards and going like, oh, that just happened and that just happened and that just got done. And I feel like I didn't move. And this is the time when, if you feel like you can't vision and create, that's when you must. But if you try to do it from fear, you're going to get all kinds of fear responses, just like the sirens are reflecting in the background. There's something big going on today, by the way. Wow, I've had to mute a lot for sirens. And when it just comes through you and you're just the vessel and the vehicle that God is breathing through and creating through, then to me, this is the antidote to what we're facing, if enough of us do it. So I have a totally hidden agenda that if enough of us empty of all of the loops and the stations and the insides and the outsides and the personas that keep us separate from one another and focused on the division. I love Jacob. I could have not hosted him based on the, when he was on in 2020 or 2020, we saw that, he believed in the virus and there was all this kind of thing. I could have, a not very much older version of me or younger version of me might have said no because of that. But I'm like, why wouldn't I include him in my awareness? Why wouldn't I share his work with the people that are the most important to me? That's you guys. Maybe he's like off on this or that, but it really doesn't at the end of the day matter. There's still something about your people and being around, and it might not take very long for me to shoot my mouth off, and I don't know what is the worst thing that could happen with Jacob. He seems to be just a beautiful soul. But anyway, the point being that we can create and we can't do it in a vacuum. That's the problem. If we're on our own and struggling and thinking that we're the only ones going through our things and struggling and suffering on our own, it's not very creative. It's not a place where you can. That's why for me, when I was totally, broken down, handicapped, thinking everything's over, my first step after doing the inner work that bubbled up in me in a truly inspired way was reaching out and talking with my community. So this is the level that creation takes place at. Creator Code is facilitating that. People are going to get their own pods to work with, people that they will practice tools and techniques with, that they will get accountability from and be able to share their experience and help everybody move along together, because we move along together more easily than just one at a time. So that's my secret agenda with Creator Code. It is a place to get the tools of deprogramming. It's a place to learn to work with archetypes and become a pattern hunter so that you're not lost for long, right? We all get lost. We all have fall downs and breakdowns, but we don't have to stay there that long for it to teach us what it's trying to capture our attention about. So that's a lot of words. Anyway, I think, thank you, Michelle. I've noticed that you were sharing my link for me, which is very handy. I didn't even need to go get it. So Michelle shared it out. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to having you in the course. She's already signed up. So that's pretty amazing. And like I said, today at midnight, I'm not specifying which midnight. So it's going to be your midnight that the early bird is on. It will disappear tomorrow. This is the first time I'm offering this course ever, even though the work is not new to me. I'm literally teaching something I've used my entire life, but never thought to teach until you told me. But what was I going to say about that? Interrupted myself. My mind is blown. I blew Jacob's mind and I blew my own mind. So what was I going to say? Anyway, so that, anyone remember what I was going to say? It's so embarrassing. Well, all right, my dears, maybe I'm out of words for right now, but let's see. What if I give you any guidance? You could go to my website, bethmartins.com, or you could just click this link in the chat if you're here live. It's in the notes if you wanted to see more about it, learn more about it. This is something that somebody asked me that had never been part of my courses or coaching before, and they were they couldn't imagine how it was going to take place. It's kind of like Jacob describing that he's in the group and somebody's trying to like, but what do you do? Are you coaching? Are you something? And I will use words like coaching and teaching just to give people half a clue, but that doesn't really describe it. So someone said, like, is there, a sample of your work I could see somewhere? So I put together a video that is a combination of me teaching and coaching and guiding and instructing. I was saying it's the first time. Oh, something the first time. Okay, I'll come back to that. So there's this video now, 25-minute compilation of different aspects of my work being actually demonstrated. So if that would help you, then I didn't post it. You can put your hand up for it. Maybe I will post it on this page that I've got on the screen. And so it's the first time. Thank you, Jackie. This is the first time I'm running this course, and therefore, being a beta run, first of all, it's half the investment that it's going to be. And second of all, in exchange for those savings, I am asking for feedback. So as we go, those people who are here in the first creator code ever are going to be helping to make it better for the future people to come. That makes you a creator of creator code. If that excites you at all, that excites me, of course. And then so that's going to be really fun just to get the constant feedback as we go along. So thank you, Jackie, for reminding me what I was going to say. That helped a lot. All right, my dears, I am around for the rest of the day if anyone has questions or wants to reach out. These can be big decisions. I know some of the people that are walking through the door, it's monumental for them. There's something they know that change is coming. There is enormous potential for transformation if that's desired and wanted. And really, you don't necessarily need to desire the transformation, but the desire for freedom. That's the part that gets you through those big doors. So do reach out if you wanted to connect with me. Thanks for tuning in. Find Jacob Lieberman again at jacoblieberman.org. And let's see if there's any other links. There's his Instagram, since he mentioned that, and his contact. You can reach him. They're very approachable. And I didn't realize Deborah was his wife. That's a woman that I've always been working with. And I'm not going to post this email because that's kind of evil for the bots out there to pick it up. But you can reach him at info@jacoblieberman.org at the same thing, and at his website. So, all right, that's it. I got all those words out. My goodness. My mind is blown. I hope your mind is blown too. I love you guys. The next interview that I'm doing is going to be Achille Curado. He is a London ex-police officer who has been through an incredible journey. He witnessed huge corruption. He tried to come up against that huge corruption, and he's paid the price. I honestly don't know why he picked me as a place to come and tell this story, but I'm honored, and I am going to be hosting him. That's in a few days, I guess, January 5th. Does that make it next week? Probably does make a week today. And that's going to be a really, really interesting interview. I don't know. Maybe it's a psyop or something. I don't think so. I don't get that sense of it. He's very sincere. We had a long conversation. And yeah, so that's pretty exciting. And anything else coming up, I might have missed it. But for today, that early bird for Creator Code is going to be ending. And I think, frankly, I think the course is going to fill today because I can see there's enough people that I don't want to make it super big. I mean, I want to work more together, a little bit more intimate with those who are joining, because this is flying the plane and creating it at the same time, which I'm demonstrating, by the way. So, okay, well, I think that's it for now. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate that. I'm going to play us out with a piece that my son created himself, speaking of creators. And I talk about him more than I see him these days because he has his own life. And so I think that's all for now. Lots of love, and have a beautiful rest of your 2025. See, I don't even know what year it is. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Yeah. Almost done with 2025. Happened to my brain. You're very welcome, Elisa. All righty. Bye for now.